Right there, Ur means fire. Ur means, so some people say, what fire was there in the lands of the Kasdim, in the lands of the Chaldeans? Ur, the fire of Kasdim. What furnace? Who built? Who? Nimrod. Right. Our tradition tells us there was a bad guy called Nimrod. It says in the Torah, Nimrod. Nimrod was a Gibor Chayil. He was a mighty man. And tradition tells us that Nimrod wanted to throw Avraham into the furnace. Why?
Because he didn't go with his regime and with his God.
That's right. He was not willing to bow down to him. Everybody else had to bow down to Nimrod, or to a statue of him that he made in the middle of the town. And he made a big furnace, and he was going to throw Avraham in. And did he?
No. He threw him in.
He did throw him in.
Very far. Because it's very hot. But he didn't burn.
Avraham didn't get burned. And so, when Avraham says in the Parsha, Anochi afar va'ef, I'm like dust and ashes. Avraham is saying, I'm like ashes because I shouldn't be ashes right now. I'm only here because of you, Hashem. You saved me from the furnace. And so who am I to pray in front of you? I owe everything to you. My very existence I owe to you. And so it's a very big statement of humility. He says, I'm like ashes. So Avraham is like ashes. But I was going to say also that Yitzchak in some ways also shouldn't be alive. Right? He was supposed to be slaughtered at the binding of Isaac. He was saved at the last minute from an angel from heaven told Avraham, stop! Don't send forth your hand to the lad. And so Yitzchak almost died. He's almost dead. The fact that he's alive, it's a miracle. A miracle that Avram's alive. It's a miracle that Yitzchak's alive. The fact that Yaakov survived and has 12 children, this is all the miraculous, divine help of Hashem. Yes?
Dat is een test daarvan. Dus
I'd say it's testing to be almost killed. Yes, I'd say it's a test.
it's not a purpose from Hashem to kill Yitzchak.
That's right. He didn't really intend to. According to our sages, he never really intended that Avram kill Yitzchak. Of course, he wanted Yitzchak to be the father of the great nation. That's right. Very interesting story, the whole story of the binding of Isaac. But if we were talking about the furnace of Nimrod and throwing Avram in, who else? You know this story from somewhere.
Yes. Daniel.
Who? Ah.
Also in the Babylonian kingdom. Same
That's
region.
right. Daniel, the book of Daniel gets thrown into the furnace. And who else?
Also.
Daniel had two sidekicks.
And, yes.
Two little children.
Yes. His friends?
Three, actually.
Yes. Meshach.
Good.
Another Babylonian name is Meshach, Abednego.
Yafeh. You know your book of Daniel. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's right. They had Hebrew names too. What did they call them?
Hananiah's one, I think.
Good. And?
Mishael.
Mishael. Good. Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Very good. So this theme of being thrown into the furnace out of dedication for Hashem, it's amazing. Well, who did we mention last week? We started to learn the laws of prayer, and we said, in the morning you have to wash your hands because there's the evil spirit.
Yeah.
And then maybe there's not so much evil spirit today. The Tosfot already said 800 years ago, maybe there's no evil spirit. But then in 250 years ago, the Gra said maybe there's not such a strong evil spirit anymore today. Why?
Because there's no
There's no nevuah, good nevuah, but there was a story about a furnace, about someone.
Oh yes. Someone was burned.
He was burned at the stake and he was not saved.
Okay.
Who was it?
Haran?
No, in 250 years ago, in modern times in Poland.
Yes, in Poland, yeah.
In Poland, he was a convert,
Okay, no surprise.
right? Avram ben Avraham,
Yeah.
Graf Potocki.
Graf Potocki.
He said, and the Graf said, wow, what a great dedication to Hashem, that it caused change in the spiritual makeup of the universe. Such tremendous dedication to Hashem. That's what we learned last time. We were learning about washing the hands in the morning, chapter 8.
Rabbi, I got a question.
Yeah, please, yes.
I want to ask on the last week parasha. Is it okay?
Sure.
Yeah. I want to ask who is the first convert? I mean, is Abraham converting people? Because there is no religion during that time. But he is trying to bring back people to one God, to believe in one God, right?
Right.
And after that, you are saying, somewhere it stated that Yitro was the first convert. So, I mean, who is the first convert actually?
Good question. Right. So, Abraham is known as the first Jew. God told him, chose him, I'm going to make you a great nation. So that's the first real promise that we have of God choosing one particular nation. Before that, all of mankind, Adam Arishon. Restart, push the restart button, who? With who?
With Noah.
With Noah, right? The whole world gets destroyed, only they come out of the teva, restart. But then after 10 generations, again, God says, this is not working. I'm going to choose Abraham, make a great nation with him. Not the entire civilization will be able to fix all at once. I'll make one great nation first. And that's Avraham Avinu. And he gets chosen, so he's known as the first Jew. Now it says about Avram that when he came to the land of Israel, he called out in the name of Hashem. Everywhere that he went, he built an altar, and he called out, B'Shem Hashem Kel Olam, in the name of the Lord, the eternal God. B'Shem Hashem Kel Olam. It's a four-word motto. And so he was. What was he doing? He was calling people. He was calling people to join him. And then it says in this week's parsha, Avram went to Beersheba. And there in Beersheba, he planted a tree, an eshel tree. An eshel is, what kind of tree is that? I'm not sure what kind it is in English. The sages say that wherever he built an altar, and whenever he planted a tree, what does it mean planted a tree? He didn't just plant a tree, he planted a whole orchard. Not even a whole orchard. You know what he did? He made a hotel for visitors to come. Until today, in modern Hebrew, if you want to get paid for expenses, right, you have, Israel, you have a business, you have business expenses. You can tell the government, this I needed to pay for to stay overnight at a hotel. You know what it's called to stay overnight? I need to buy some food when I'm traveling for business. In Hebrew, it's called, you pay for eshel. Eshel. Vayita eshel b'Beersheva. It's the name of the tree that Avraham planted. Why? Because our sages say that the tree was not just a tree, and it was not just an orchard, and not really what a hotel. You know what it stands for? Look on the board. This week's parsha. We didn't clean up. The type of tree. Why don't you open up a chumash? Open up. Give everybody a chumash. We're going to get to the laws of prayer in a second. Open up to this week's parsha. Give me one, please. And give everybody one. The Tanakh. You give everyone a Tanakh. Yeah. What's the parsha? What? Chayei Sarah. And at the end of Chayei Sarah, it says that Avram or did we already have that verse? No. Maybe it was. It's in Vayera. It's in this week's parsha. And look for chapter 21, the second last verse. This is what I was talking about. It says in chapter 21, verse 33. 33. The Perek 21 equals Perek Kaf Aleph. And then the verse is Lamed Gimel equals 33. 21, 33. Okay? Bereshit. It's in Parshat Vayera. And it says, Vayita Eshel. And he planted an Eshel in Beersheba. What does it say in your English? What page do you have?
Page 33.
33.
Chapter 21. XXI again.
Yes. XXI. 21, verse 33. What does it say in English?
It says, and Abraham planted a grove in Beersheba.
A grove. Aha. Like a whole orchard. Right?
What's a grove?
A grove is a whole orchard, like a lot of trees. Eshel is a specific type of tree. But here they don't really give you what type it is.
You just say
A grove. They just say a grove. You planted a grove.
Vayima Eshel.
Vayita. 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 Vayita Eshel Biver Shava. In Beersheba he planted a tree or a grove. So.
But because I also want to say something about what he asked me, right? Because they say like.
I'm getting to answer his question also. It's from here. About the question? About Avram converting others? Okay, go ahead.
Because what I think is like, in that time there was no Torah, so they teach us the seven Noahide laws.
Okay.
Is there a connection between Beersheba, 7 laws, and...
It's a good question. Not that I know of. I mean, the assumption is that Avram was teaching them more than just the Noahide laws, because he's teaching them to become part of the Jewish people, which are going to get 613 laws. Maybe he had more traditions than just for the Noah. Everybody should be a Noahide. That's true. That's right, Brit Milah. So our sages tell us that this is an acronym. Eshel, the word Eshel, you see it in Hebrew? Vayita Eshel, he planted a tree, a grove. It actually stands for Aleph is Achila. Shin stands for Shtia. And Lamed stands for Lina. You see? Aleph, Shin, Lamed. Aleph, Shin, Lamed. Achila, Shtia, Nina. That's food, drink,
Eliminate.
and
Sleeping.
yeah, sleeping, lodging.
Breakfast.
Bed and breakfast, exactly.
Wow.
Avram created a bed and breakfast. And then it continues to say, and there he proclaimed the name of Hashem, God of the universe. Proclaimed the name of Hashem, God of the universe. So what does that mean? He makes an altar in one place and he calls in the name of Hashem. Here he makes a lodging, he gives people a hotel, and he proclaims the name of Hashem, God of the universe. So our sages fill in. They tell the following story. You know how Abraham taught people about the one God? Well, we had it in this week's Parsha, in Vayera, at the beginning of Vayera. What did Avram do?
He called people inside, give them food.
He brought in guests. Come on in, I'll give you some food, I'll give you some drink. Turned out they were angels, right? They had message for him. What? He invited people in. Our sages say when he gave them food and they were about to eat, he said to them, wait, stop. What, are you just going to eat? You have to say thank you to the one who made the food. And they start saying, oh, Sarah, you're such a good cook. Abraham, thank you so much. He said, no, this was not from me. He says, who's it from? He says, it's from Hashem. Who's Hashem? The master of the heavens, the master of the earth. He created everything. And so if you want to thank the owner, you should thank the God of the universe, the name of Hashem. So he told them, oh, okay, everybody who came to the hotel, Avram was a missionary, essentially. We stopped being missionaries afterwards, but we're trying to get our own act together. But at that time, Avram, from here our sages learned that Avram was, you could say, converting people, right? He was converting people. And then, if you go back to the beginning of last week's Parsha, go to chapter 12, beginning of Lech Lecha. Avraham comes. He didn't only start converting people in Beersheba. You know where Beersheba is?
Yes.
You could see it on the map
In
there,
the south.
in the south.
Close to Arab.
Where did he start converting people? We said, why was he put in the furnace by Nimrod? Because
he let people to come out.
he wasn't willing to bow down to the idol. All right? It wasn't. He said, I only believe in one God. And so we see that Avraham already was teaching people about monotheism. So look in chapter 12, verse 5. It's Yud Bet. Hey, chapter 12, verse 5. And Avram took his wife. Stephen, you read it.
Abraham took his wife, Sarai, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their possession that they have amassed, and the soul that they made in Haran.
Stop there. And then they left the land of Canaan. What does it mean? He took with him all their possessions and the souls that they made in Haran. How do you make a soul?
To control people?
That's what our sages say. Our sages, you know how you make a soul? You help create new Jews. They have a Jewish soul all of a sudden. It's a reference to conversion. People who they convinced to believe in one God, to be on their team. And so our sages even go further and they say that Avram converted the men and Sarah converted the women. Of course, we have men and women studying separately. Everybody has their own path to conversion. So yes, there is a tradition that Avraham will make you a great nation. I will bless you. Right? And through you, blessing will come to the entire world. So Avraham was the first Jew, but then we see that he already was making converts. He was making people join him. And then later on, in our part, in Vayera, we see that he created a whole system of giving, inviting in guests, and giving them food, giving them the eshel. The tree is not just the grove, but it's maybe achilav, shtiyah, dwelling, lodging, and that was his way of spreading the word of Hashem. Vayikra Hashem b'shem Hashem kel olam. He called out there in the name of God, the Lord of the universe. So this is a tradition that Avraham had. We see later on, we see that he fought against the kings. He had a whole group. It wasn't just, Avraham was a very rich man.
Yes.
He was so rich that what happened?
He had to separate with Lot.
He had to separate with Lot, exactly. He said they were getting into fights because they had so much possessions. He said, I don't want to fight with you, you're my brother. So you go to the right, I'll go to the left, right? Avraham was a very big, rich man. Where did all these people come from? Him and Sarah. Okay, a maidservant. Okay, then they had Yishmael. Then they must have been joined by lots and lots of people. Sorry?
I want to ask about Ishmael also. But since Abraham is converting people, Abraham was the first Jew. Then how about Ishmael?
Good question. Good question. So we say that in last week's parsha, Yitzchak was the first one to be circumcised at the age of 8.
Yes.
Right? Ishmael was 13 at the time, according to the calculation. In any case, later on, Avram is praying to Hashem, I still don't have a son from Sarah. And maybe Ishmael's the one. And Hashem says to him, no. Ishmael will be good. Ishmael has how many children? I showed it to you. 12 children also. But then he says, no, but you, and the promise that I gave you to become a great nation is going to be from Yitzchak. And Yitzchak, he has to wait till Yaakov, and then he has 12 sons. But Yitzchak's grandchildren are 12, and then the rest of the story of the whole Torah is about the sons of Yitzchak. So Ishmael is part of the children of Abraham, but he's not really, it's not the chosen nation. Doesn't become part of the chosen nation. So
he's not called a Jew.
I don't think so, yeah. I don't think so. That's exactly what Hashem comes to tell him. He says that your name, your great nation is going to come from Yitzchak, not from Ishmael. Ishmael will get a blessing. He got a blessing. He became a nation too. Traditionally, we say, who is the sons of Ishmael? Right, the Arabs. Somehow. They took on, Islam, hundreds and hundreds of years after the Torah, they came and they made a new book. What do they call their book? Quran. And in the Quran, what is the story of this week's Parsha, of the Akedah of Yitzchak, the binding of Isaac? You know what it says in the Quran?
Ishmael.
The binding of Ishmael. They say that Ishmael was the chosen son. Wow, that's quite a big change. But the Torah is very clear that it's not Ishmael. They identify as the children of Ishmael, but they change the stories of the Torah that they're the ones that are the chosen ones. But Hashem promised that the children of Yitzchak are going to be the children of Yaakov, and his sons are later the children of Yitzchak, as it says in the Torah. Anyways, very interesting. So Avram maybe was making converts to his group. He only has one son, but Yaakov. And then how many is Yaakov when he goes down to Egypt? 12 children and 70 souls. And we see over the course of a few hundred years in Egypt, they come back 600,000 men from the age of 20 to 62 million people from those 70 souls. So there was a small group. Avram had a small group. It says that Avram had 318, I think, that went to go fight against the four kings, right? To save his brother-in-law Lot. But then somehow they weren't actually biological children of Yaakov. So when Yaakov went down with 70 souls, maybe 70 children and grandchildren, maybe there was others as well that were sort of the converts. Maybe they came with the Jewish people down to Egypt, but ultimately there was always traditions of these people that joined. When the Jewish people left Egypt, there was a group, what were they called? Erev Rav, guys, the multitude, exactly, who joined up to the Jewish people. But anyways, hope that answers your question. Let's go back. We were talking about the laws of prayer, and we sort of got sidetracked by the Parsha, but it's a good question. It's an interesting question. And we left off in chapter 8, section 5. We talked about how it says at the top of page 106, chapter 8. It says even before section 5, it is customary to be strict concerning everything mentioned in the Talmud, such as washing one's hands 3 times and not touching bodily orifices prior to washing. So we wash our hands in the morning 3 times on alternating hands, because it says it in the Talmud for 3 reasons. We went through the 3 reasons. The third one being Ruach Ra'ah, and we talked about how maybe it does not fully exist, but we still do what it says in the Talmud. Section 5. Ready? We're going to talk about the bracha. Last week we mentioned that it's strange that the bracha is not usually recited immediately after the bracha of after Netilat Yadayim in the morning. Let's see it inside.
You want to go back to the question about washing your hands after speaking now?
This is it. We're talking about it now. What do you mean? Yeah.
One question.
Yeah.
If I sleep during the day.
That's the next section 6. Yeah. Okay. 5. Okay, Stephen, Eitan, why don't you start? Section 5.
So the correct time to receive the Netilat Yadayim bracha is immediately after washing and before drying one's hands. However, the general rule regarding all brachot are received upon the performance of mitzvot. It is to receive the bracha first and then perform the mitzvah. Hence, we make a bracha one day wrapping our tefillin before binding them on our arms, and then we make a bracha on the mezuzah before affixing in the doorpost. Yet regarding on Netilat Yadayim, the law is different, since it is inappropriate to receive the bracha while one's hands are unclean. It is a recital, it's delayed until after the washing. Still, we may not separate the bracha from the act of the mitzvah, and therefore immediately after washing before drying one's hands, the bracha must be received.
In actuality, that's the way it should be. That's the way it is when we wash our hands for bread. But in actuality, the bracha, go ahead, is usually not recited.
Is usually not recited
Immediately.
For following the first washing upon waking, this is because people generally need to relieve themselves upon waking up. And one should not receive a bracha will having to tend to one's bodily needs. Furthermore, according to the Rosh, the washing was instituted to prepare the person for prayer. Therefore, one is obligated to receive the bracha on the washing before praying. Hence, after relieving oneself in the morning, one washes his hands again and receives the bracha before drying them. One who does not need the relief himself in the morning should recite the bracha. On the first washing immediately upon waking up. Regarding one who rises from his sleep long before he intends to pray and know for certain that prior to praying he will need
to defecate means to go number 2.
There is
uncertainty
concerning when it is proper to receive Amrit. According to the Rashba, who maintains that one washes in honor of the day, it is proper that he receive the bracha immediately. Upon waking up, according to the Rosh, who maintains that the washing was instituted as preparation for prayer, he should receive the bracha. On the washing right before prayer, in this case, it is advisable to recite the bracha ha-shacha immediately following the washing forward upon rising, and then to a certain extent, Birkat ha-shacha will be considered the beginning of the prayer and the washing and preparation for them. The way, even according to the Rosh, one may receive Almighty left the dying immediately upon waking up. Therefore, whoever wakes up after Chazot, Ahadachit, midnight, must wash his hands, receive Almighty left the dying, and say all of Brachot HaShachar. However, if after remaining awake for a few hours, he intends to go back to sleep until the time to pray arrives. After waking up the first time, he must wash his hands without a bracha, and after the second time, he must wash with a bracha, for that is waking closest to prayer.
Okay, leave that. So the bottom line is, as I said the other day, if you want the washing to be about preparing for prayer, like we said, that's the law, you have to wash your hands before prayer, and that's what was instituted by the sages, so you're going to make the bracha on that one. And I think that in the context of the way, when we get up in the morning, we don't immediately start praying. We have to get dressed. Some people have a cup of coffee. Some people have to travel, at least walk down the stairs. Right? So, and you don't have your siddur with you when you're waking up. So, in practice, my suggestion is that we all wait with the bracha al netilat yadayim until we begin our prayers. So you're going to be washing once when you first wake up, and then you're going to go to the bathroom, you wash again. And then maybe you're going to get dressed, and maybe you'll touch your shoes, or maybe so when you go, get ready to start the prayer, wash your hands a third time. And you make the bracha al netilat yadayim at the beginning of the morning blessings. Once only for the entire series of hand washings. That's my suggestion, yes.
That's why you can do not all those things after, like in one thing, all these things, and then you wash your hands, and then you say the bracha.
So the problem is, we want to wash your hands as close to waking up as possible. Because we said yesterday, there's the ruach ra'ah, the evil spirit, and the whole idea that you wake up, you're starting the service of your day, you're like a kohen, who washes his hands before worship, and so we want the washing to be as soon as possible after you wake up. But we wait for the bracha to be as close as possible to the prayer. And maybe then you go to the bathroom after you washed your hands. So you have to wash your hands again. And then, as I said, maybe you get dressed and touch your shoes, you go wash your hands again. So we make the bracha, most people make the bracha the later one, not the one right after you wake up, because you still have to go to the bathroom. You can't make a bracha if you have to go to the bathroom. We talked about it last week. Remember, you have to wait if you need to go. If you have to get on the bus, right? Can you hold it in for as long as it takes you to go to Tel Aviv? Remember that? So you can't say a prayer when you've got to go. So you shouldn't be saying the bracha of Al Nitilat Yadayim if you're about to go to the bathroom. So we wait with the bracha. Turns out the bracha is very far away from the washing of the hands. Yes. Very few minutes, very far. 10 minutes. But it's unusual. It's unusual that you say Al Nitilat Yadayim not immediately after washing your hands, but every morning. That's the usual procedure. Is that clear? All right.
Rav, can you say, let's say we wake up, we go to the bathroom, and you use the toilet, then when you come out, can we, at the same time, we do the washing, then can we say, only the time, then only say, Asher Yazah,
and then
go to prayer.
Say again, only the time, and then what?
After
Asher Yatzar, yeah. You could do that. Sure, you could do that, but again, you're usually then going to get dressed. And then you're really not starting your prayers. So the bracha that you're saying, Al Nitilat Yadayim, it's not close to so much to waking, and it's not close to prayer. So according to the Rosh, the washing that you're supposed to say the bracha on is the one that's closest to the prayers. Now you're still going to go get dressed. So that's why, and I think that...
but can I delay the blessing for the Asher Yazah also?
Yes. So usually the custom is we delay both blessings. During the day, all day long, you come out of the bathroom, you make a Asher Yatzar right away. But after washing your hands. But in the morning, just like the Al Nitilat Yadayim gets delayed, Asher Yatzar can get delayed. It doesn't have to, but I suggest that you delay all the blessings. You say Modani, of course, but everything else, say from the Siddur, when you start your morning blessings, it has the Al Nitilat Yadayim, it has Asher Yatzar, and then Elokai Neshama, right after Asher Yatzar, the blessing on the soul, right after the blessing for the body. Some Achronim write that you should make a bracha for the body and a bracha for the soul right next to each other. So then it works out that you leave all the blessings for when you start praying from your Siddur. After you're fully dressed, maybe even after you put on your talit and tefillin. Some people put on their talit and tefillin first, and then they start saying the tefillah. Some people say, no, well, listen, I have to say the washing hands, bracha, and the Asher Yatzar beforehand. And then they say those, then they put on their talit and tefillin, and then they say the other 15. Either way is kosher. You'll see in some Sidurim, they have the talit and tefillin before, Netilat Yadayim and Asher Yatzar and Elokai Neshama, and some have it afterwards. Because, finish off with the Netilat Yadayim and Asher Yatzar, then you put on your talit and tefillin. They both make sense. Either one is kosher. Pinchas, do you want to ask a question?
What is the difference reciting the Netilat Yadayim before washing hand or after the washing hand? אני חושב שזה לא משנה, לפעמים before, לפעמים after, סעודה אוכל לחם, אחרי washing hand, after washing hand, reciting the ידיים.
Right. So it's really strange. That's what we started off with. It. The brachas are usually supposed to be before the mitzvah. So we should say the bracha before we wash our hands. But washing hands, one of the reasons we wash our hands is to get your hands clean, so that you can say a bracha. Right? So it's the exception. I'll not wash your hands. But you can't make the bracha first, so we make it afterwards. Now, we're saying that in the morning, maybe you make the bracha very afterwards, a long time afterwards, because you have to wash your hands once, and then you go to the bathroom, and then you get dressed, and then we want to wash your hands for prayer, so we sort of cover all our bases, and we wait with the bracha until we're ready to pray. Okay? Yeah.
I got a question, Rav, because the Rav was saying that in some sidurs you find that the talit and tefillah are before the blessing.
That's right.
And most of the sidurim you find it after. Is it the question that some people, when they wake up, they're at home, they say the first blessings at home?
Yes.
And then in the shul, they start from the...
That's right. You could also do that, right? Sometimes depends when you wake up. Like it's a great time to study early in the morning, but you can't pray yet until the sun comes up. Well, not yesterday, Shabbat morning, went to bed early. Got up at around 3 o'clock.
In the morning.
In the morning. And I learned until I went to daven around 5 o'clock. When does the sun come up? 5:52. It says at 5:54, actually. Sunrise. So I had time to say Psukei de Zimra from 5 to 5:42, but from 3 to 5 I learned. So I woke up. I did Netilat Yadayim, but I didn't say a bracha because it's not before prayers. And then at 5 o'clock I started to say the morning blessings. And I could put on my talit already, only close to 5 o'clock. And so then I started to say the rest of the prayers. So sometimes you want to wake up early in the morning. Sometimes you might even want to put on your talit and tefillin before you actually start the prayers. For davening, some people, for learning, they want to put on their talit and tefillin. So there is ways to divide it up, yes. Some people do. They get dressed, and in the morning they want to, before they leave the house to go to shul, they want to have a cup of coffee. So at home, they open up their siddur, and they say the morning blessings, and they have their cup of coffee. And then when they go to shul, then they put on their talit and tefillin at shul, and then they say the rest of the morning blessings, whatever's left, whatever. So you can switch it up, divide it up. But the first thing I wanted to make clear to you is probably the best practice is you do the of course washing of the hands, go to the bathroom, get dressed, wash your hands again, and then without saying any of the brachos, in the morning blessings should be put them all together when you're properly dressed. Maybe you're in shul, whenever you're ready to pray, out of your siddur, you read the blessings, starting with Al Netilat Yadayim, Asher Yatzar, Elokai Neshama, the blessings over the Torah. But if you wake up early in the morning, you have to make the blessings on the Torah. Anytime you wake up at 3 in the morning, I said the blessings on the Torah, nothing else. I didn't say Al Netilat Yadayim. Asher Yatzar, you say I have to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom, but I wasn't the morning Asher Yatzar. That I said afterwards, I went to the bathroom again. But blessings on the Torah, if you're studying Torah, you have to say even before davening. But the usual is, you get up, Netilat Yadayim, go to the bathroom. Some people skip it. The Netilat Yadayim next to be careful not to touch any orifices. Go to the bathroom. Then you wash Netilat Yadayim. Then you get dressed. And then, when you're all properly dressed and you have your siddur, whether it's in shul or at home, then you say all the blessings that cover everything you've done. Okay?
So, some people, I don't know if I'm right, but after Kedusha, a lot of people go out to synagogue, they wash the hands or something.
Yes.
People only do this. Also normal people, like...
No, maybe people need a break. If people go out to smoke, maybe, I don't know. Chas v'chalila. No. But after Kedusha, you stay and you listen to the repetition. People that go out, they go because they're Kohanim, or the Leviim maybe have to help them. Kohanim and Leviim should go out and wash their hands, get ready for Birkat Kohanim, for the blessings of the priests. But everybody else should stay in. Maybe some people need a break because they have short attention spans. ADHD. Well, there you go. Maybe they need to breathe fresh air. Maybe they have, what they say in Israel, they have kotzim. Kotzim is thorns. in your behind. It's hard for them to sit for very long. They always got to be active. They always got to be moving. So the first chance they get, after Kedusha, they leave and walk around and maybe talk to their friends. Better they go out and talk if they have to. But if you can, you should stay. There's no reason to leave after the Kedusha.
But also, every Beit Knesset is like this. Always people walking around. Some people they walk all the prayer like.
It depends which Beit Knesset. Maybe where you live, that's the way it goes. And there's some Beit Knesset, everybody sits in their place from beginning till end, no walking around, very orderly, very formal. Where you live, they're very informal, and people like to move and whatever. And every different style, different styles. But it's no law. No, there's no laws involved. The only people that go out regularly is to wash the hands, the Kohanim and the Levim.
And why they do this exactly, washing the hands?
The Kohanim have to wash their hands before they bless the people. It's also a commemoration of the Kohanim in the temple service. They would wash their hands. And so, and they're going to make and they have to take off their shoes. So maybe they'll touch their shoes. So they have to wash their hands. And the Levim assist them, like in the Beit HaMikdash. The Levim would be assisting the Kohanim. So this is the custom that, of course, the Kohanim, they wash their hands before starting davening, just like everybody else. But it could be they weren't careful, they were thinking about, they weren't guarding their hands. And so they should wash their hands again in case maybe they touched themselves where it's sweaty or a place where it's unclean. So that's the custom that the Kohanim wash their hands again immediately before giving the bracha. It's disruptive, I agree.
Okay.
Once I was a kid, I just moved to Israel. I think it was maybe 10 years old. And I was curious, like you. Why is everybody leaving? And so I followed them. Because in Chutz La'aretz, where I grew up in Toronto, not every day do the Kohanim bless the people. So this was new to me, that all of a sudden everybody's leaving after the Kedusha. So I followed them. I said, oh, okay, I see. There's people washing hands. And I even saw some of the children are helping the Kohanim wash their hands. So I said, okay, I want to join. I was a precocious kid. Only afterwards did I realize that I was illegal. I broke the law because I'm not a Levi. Only the Levis get to help the Kohanim wash their hands. I didn't know any better. I was just excited. But I learned that, every day, the Kohanim give a bracha here. And it's the Levim, even the children of Levim, who can wash their hands for the Kohanim, but not somebody who's a regular Jew, a regular Israelite. Tov, Beseder? Now finally, Michal, you've been waiting for this answer. Number 6, page 107.
107.
Read.
Hand washing following daytime sleep. There is uncertainty regarding what precisely causes the ruach ha'ah to linger on one's hand. It's the mere state of sleep when a person.
Is it the mere state of sleep?
Is it the mere state of sleep when a person consciousness abandons him and is left without the ability to function, requiring even one who sleeps during the day to wash his hands 3 times upon awakening to remove the ruach ha'ah? Or is it brought about by the night, when the entire world ceases its activities, and therefore even a person who was awake all night must wash his hands 3 times? In practice, when both causes intertwine, and so one sleeps at night, regular sleep, approximately half an hour, the ruach ha'ah rests upon him in full force. In such a case, immediately upon rising, one must hurry to wash his hands 3 times and refrain from touching his bodily orifices or food prior to that washing. Still, the barakah on this washing is only recited before shacharit, as explained in Halacha 5. It's proper for one who slept regular sleep during the day to be strengthened and wash his hands 3 times alternately, but it is unnecessary for him to rush to do so. Also, there is no prohibition forbidding him from touching his body orifices when he washes.
Okay, so you got the answer to your question?
Little bit.
In the daytime,
Yes.
there's a debate.
Yes.
Is there Ruach Ra'ah or not? Maybe Ruach Ra'ah is only in the morning, when you wake up from the nighttime sleep, daytime sleep. So we're machmir a little bit. If you can, you should wash your hands 3 times, like when you wake up in the morning. But we're not so machmir, we're not so stringent that you have to, don't touch anything, and we'll do it right next to your bed, and all those things we talked about, how we rush about it. Custom is you wake up in the daytime, you wash your hands too, but it's not absolutely obligatory.
Okay.
Some people interpret what the Talmud was saying, that you have to wash your hands in the morning. For the 3 reasons, that's only the nighttime sleep, not daytime sleep.
Because remember, I was in the beginning when I came to Israel, I was traveling, right?
Yeah.
And I was in the bus, and I was very tired. I
Yeah.
wanted to sleep, but I was like, hey, I cannot sleep now because I cannot wash my hands.
You were very machmir.
Wow.
You were very machmir.
Yeah, but this was then. Now I still sleep now. Because I wasn't sure, I wasn't sure. But
If you sleep in the daytime, it's best that you wash like in the morning, but it's not at the same level of obligation.
because
It's
no
a
one can sleep
stringency.
in the bus.
In the bus, it's impossible, right? So
People
it's
sleep
okay.
in the bus.
Yeah, people sleep on the bus, and you don't have to be careful. But if you're at home, why not? You're getting get up. You're going to go to the bathroom anyways. You're going to wash your hands. Usually, it's not an issue. But like you're saying, sometimes you fall asleep in the daytime in the Bet Midrash. Have you seen that?
No.
No, have you never seen that?
People sleep in the lesson.
People sleeping?
Oh, what a shame.
Sometimes my son, he puts his head down and he wants to keep studying, but he can't. He's just so tired. So he puts his head down for a few minutes. Then he wakes up. He keeps on studying. But really, he should be machmir and wash his hands, but it's not the same level of obligation like in the morning. Yeah.
And also, what interesting is, so when I even didn't sleep the whole night, I still have to wash my hands. So
That's
what I
right.
found out.
That's
Also,
right. That's right. That's well, it's a stringency.
stringency.
It's a stringency. Yeah. That's, for example, on Shavuot night when everybody stays up to learn Torah all night.
Yes,
We still the custom is that you go to the bathroom, and then when you finish going to the bathroom, you have to wash your hands anyways. So you do it like we said yesterday. There's some people that always do the 3 times alternating hands every time they come out of the bathroom, not only in the morning. So you cover your bases if you do that in the morning. All right, let's continue. If you wake up in the middle of the night to drink or to take care of a baby, Bezrat Hashem, you'll be parents of little children soon. Well, it's best to wash your hands if you can. But if it's, you can rely on those opinions that in the middle of the night you don't have to. That's what he says. There's the best practice, but if it's too difficult, definitely don't recite a bracha until the morning. But if you can and you want to drink, wash your hands. And if you go to the bathroom, siseh asher yatzar. But you can wait until the morning if you want to. So we have 2 different opinions. Okay, we're done with washing hands in the morning. Enough. Chapter 9. Let's move ahead to the next section. Birkot HaShachar, the morning blessings. Pinchas, how are you?
Fine.
You're good?
Good.
How was your Shabbat?
Good.
Where were you?
Bye.
Bait. Bait is Kiryat Moshe. Where do you live?
סעודה אישו, אני אוכל, אנחנו אוכל במשפחה שהיא 可以混写 ST KCT
אהה.
רופא
מטופלת של אשתך. אשתך מטפלת בה. She treats her. A patient of your wife. A patient of your wife. Yeah, מטופלת. Yeah, טיפול is treatment. Yeah, so she treats her. So very nice. What community in Kiryat Moshe? No, Beit HaKerem. Beit HaKerem. Beit HaKerem. Very nice. And that was enjoyable.
כן.
יפה.
עלייה from Australia.
Say again?
עלייה Australia.
They're all from Australia. Wow. So you spoke English or Hebrew with them? English? English. You're managed. Your daughter speaks better Hebrew than English now, probably. Your daughter, more Hebrew or English? Both. Also English? Okay, good.
My daughter English is good.
It is good, okay. יפה. טוב, יפה, בית הכרם. And where do you pray? Here? You come to Machon Meir? No, over there. Beit Knesset. Yeah. Right. We have a student of ours from Machon Meir, who used to be a student here from Holland. Big guy. Big fellow called Evron. Maybe you see him in the Beit Knesset in Beit HaKerem. He's there in the Beit Knesset. You should find him. He also went to Machon Meir. He's from Holland. Yeah. He's from Holland. Evron. I can't pronounce his name. That's his name. I can't say it. Okay, ready for chapter 9? Let's go. Blessings of thanks. The Chachamim instituted the recital of many blessings immediately upon waking in the morning. Yisrael, are you with us? The purpose of these blessings is to thank Hashem for the good that He bestows us every day. So once a day, we make these blessings of thanks. Which time? In the morning. Hence, the Talmud teaches that when a person wakes up, he must thank Hashem and say, "My God, the soul which you have placed within me is pure." What bracha is that? It's known as Elokai Neshama. Blessed are Hashem who restores souls to dead bodies. When he hears the sound of the rooster, announcing the arrival of the new day. What's a rooster?
A cock.
A cock, right. Tel Negol is a rooster. What noise does it make in Dutch? Kukuruku. And in English it's kukuriku. And what is it in Chinese? Kukuku? Kukuku. Kukuriku is in the Hebrew. And cock-a-doodle-doo in English. Cock-a-doodle-doo, yes. I mean, it's a little bit similar. In Hebrew they say kukuriku. And anyways, we blessed are you Hashem. We say, blessed are you Hashem, our King, God of the universe, who gives the rooster understanding to distinguish between day and night. Upon opening his eyes, he recites, blessed are you Hashem, who gives sight to the blind. When one stretches his limbs, the son is bad after being captive in the shackles of sleep, he recites, who releases the imprisoned, Matir Asurim. When he dresses, he recites, clothes the naked, Matir Malbish Harumim. When he stands on his leg, he recites, who straightens the bends, Lokef Kulufim. When he places his feet on the ground, he recites, who spreads the earth upon the waters. All these blessings. We keep going. And the entire list of the 15 blessings, of course, when you wash your hand, Al Netilat Yadayim. And finally, when you wash your face, you say, Mavir Sheina Meinai, remove sleep from my eyes. Then, the Chachamim, I'm skipping ahead to the end of the next paragraph, page 116. Chachamim also instituted 3 special brachot of thanks which express gratitude to Hashem for choosing us and giving us His mitzvot. They are, not having made me a Gentile, not having made me a slave, not having made me a woman. And women, of course, say, for having made me according to His will. All these are levels of obligation of mitzvot. And he explains, Rav Melamed explains, life's routine on page 1 16, the last paragraph of section 1. Life's routine generally wears away our attention from all the good that Hashem showers upon us. As a consequence of this ungratefulness, the daily blessings that HaKadosh Baruch Hu grants a person fails to delight him, and his life becomes dull and empty. In order to emerge from this desolation, he seeks out various pleasures. Hence, the Chachamim instituted Birkot HaShachar, so that he will not be ungrateful. With these blessings, we thank our Creator for all things big and small that help us function in the world. Out of this thankfulness to Hashem, we are privileged to observe the world with a rich and comprehensive outlook. We learn that every single element in our lives has godly value, arousing our desire to add goodness to the world with every new day that God gives us. So, we have these special blessings once a day to appreciate everything that we take for granted. Can you imagine somebody who's in a wheelchair and all of a sudden the magician comes with a magic wand and he taps him and he can get up and walk? He'll be so, thank you Hashem for allowing me to walk. Imagine somebody who's lying in the street and has no clothing and someone comes over and buys him a new suit. They say, oh, thank you Hashem for giving me clothing. But we take it for granted. Every day is the same. We're so used to it. The blessings allow us to be aware, sensitive, and thankful to Hashem. You wanted to say something?
Yes. You say also, you say also in bracha if you put like a head cover of kippah on. But why you don't do it when you wake up? Kippah on.
I don't know any bracha for putting on a kippah.
Stays here.
Which one?
Like, when he puts on a head cover, be at the head of a kippah, he recites, who crowns Israel with glory, both Israel. Right. This is the one interpretation of what it means, the glory. The truth is, some people say that refers to the tefillin. The tefillin is what gives us glory on our heads, who cover our heads. The kippah is not an obligation, we said, but tefillin is an obligation. We're going to see that this is the idea, the principle. In practice,
No one do that.
when do we say the blessings?
In the shul.
Afterwards. After we're all dressed, after we've gotten out of bed, after we've straightened up, we've stretched our limbs, we've washed our hands, we've done it all. Then we say all the blessings together. That's the common custom. Okay? So there's no real blessing on putting on a kippah.
So also makes sense, because otherwise then you say the other blessings without the kippah.
It would be a problem, right? How could you say the blessings before if you didn't have a kippah on yet? Exactly. We're supposed to only say a blessing with Hashem's name, with the kippah on.
Why we need to wear kippah? What means?
Why wear a kippah at all? Yeah. So, we talked about it a little bit. The Talmud states that one mother of one of the great sages from the Talmud, right? She would always put a kippah on his head. She said, I want to train him. He should always know that there's God above his head. He should always have the fear of heaven. Meaning he should always be aware of Hashem. And so this became a tradition that it represents that we remember Hashem.
When the Jews begin to wear kippah?
Good question. En masse, very recently. Couple hundred years. It's true that throughout the ages, even from thousands of years ago, there were individuals who wore a kippah. And slowly it became, part of the day you wear a kippah whenever you pray. Or when you learn Torah, you should cover your head. That's a sign of respect, that you recognize God, that you're studying something important. And then slowly but surely, it became all day long. And now it's turned into a mark of pride, identity. I am proud to be a Jew, so I put on a kippah. I'm proud to be religious, so I put on a kippah. but it's not an obligation. It wasn't always like that.
I heard in the Nazi period, Jews begin to wear kippah.
There were different communities, different parts of the world. In some Eastern countries, Arab countries, the Jews wore always a kippah, a hat, a kafia, some kind of head covering. In Germany,
It's the country when
maybe thousands of years, we don't know exactly. But as a religious obligation, the tradition always existed. Like I said, maybe for prayer. For prayer, you have to wrap up your head. It's a sign of respect. But all day long, I don't know if it was in every community. In the Eastern Europe, there were some communities where the rabbis didn't wear kippah all day long. Only when they pray, when you go to shul. And that's because it was not, when the system changed. Used to be, we talked about it, we were talking about the wearing the black hat, the fedora. So that's the way. You would never leave your house without wearing a hat. Everybody, non-Jews, it was just considered to be formal, proper dress. And so when the dress changed, and people started going out, going to work, and about their business without a hat, so the Jews also did. Even Orthodox Jews, religious Jews. There's no obligation to wear a kippah all day long. They always had a kippah in their pocket. If you're going to eat something and make a bracha, put on a kippah for the bracha. But the rest of the time, even in America, 100 years ago, there were very few Orthodox Jews, and it was considered to be bad manners to put on a kippah. You were afraid that if you put on a kippah, you wouldn't get a job, or they'd kick you out of the job. They say, we want a lawyer to be like everybody else. We want the business person to represent the company. So, till today, many Orthodox Jews, they don't wear a kippah at work. When they come home, they go to shul, they put on a kippah. When they make a bracha, they put on a kippah. But not when they go to work. And so there's different communities, and the standards are different. But it's more and more, last 100 years, it's become more and more that if you're a keeper of halacha, you wear a kippah all day long. Some people, some kids find it difficult even here in Israel. They want to be like, who's the majority in Israel? Secular. The majority of the community, people don't wear a kippah. These kids are very aware of how they look.
Yes.
And they want to fit in. And they say, well, I don't want everybody to just look at me different because I'm religious. So they don't want to wear a kippah. I know people, religious people, who don't wear a kippah except when they go to shul. Because they don't want to be labeled as somebody who's religious versus their friends who are all secular. I think it's a shame. We should be proud of who we are. We should be proud to be religious. We should identify as a religious Jew. It's such an important part of our life. And all day long, you take a drink, you have to make a bracha. So what are you going to take? Every time, on, off, on, off, on, off. Keep your kippah on, be proud of it, and then you say a bracha. You know, when people started to, when Orthodox Jews do bad things, it makes people ashamed of being Orthodox. Unfortunately, sometimes religious Jews do bad things. Just last week we had the commemoration of, I think it was 27 years or something, 25 years of the assassination of the Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin. You heard about it? Yitzhak Rabin was the Prime Minister of Israel, and he was assassinated. And you know who assassinated him? a Jew wearing a kippah.
Yes.
And this was a terrible, terrible, terrible sin, terrible event. All of the country was shocked, and they started to look at anybody wearing a kippah and say, "Oh, you're a killer. You're like your friends with the guy who assassinated." Many people said, "I don't want to be accused of killing. I didn't, one crazy guy. I'm not his friend." So they took off their kippah because they were afraid to be called a killer. It's a terrible, terrible thing. So, anyways, when Jews wearing a kippah do bad things, people want to take off the kippah. It's understandable. So we have to make sure that when we wear a kippah, we do good things. And be proud of being religious and keeping the mitzvot. Okay, Bezat Hashem, we'll learn more about the laws of reciting the morning blessings. Bezat Hashem, tomorrow morning. Any questions, for today? More questions,
Yes, for the kippah is the same for a woman with the hair covering.
It's not exactly the same. The custom never was that all women wear a head covering, except when they're married. This is already a law from the Torah. Most people understand that a married woman has to cover her hair. It's considered to be a disgrace if she doesn't cover her hair. It's not modest. And so the custom, as I said, in some communities, even little girls cover their hair. But in most places, only when they get married do they have to cover their hair. But before that, they don't cover hair. So they say blessings without covering their hair. If they're at home by themselves, and when they're not married, they can say blessings. They go to shul without covering their hair. But when they're married, they should be covering their hair. Here too, you'll find some people that are not so religious, and the women don't cover their hair even after they get married. But when they go to shul, they feel, I have to be more religious. So they cover their hair when they go to shul.
So some do only like this, and all the hair came out like this.
It's a band.
Oh, wow. There's so many different ways of covering your hair. It's for another lesson, but it's I think, we said about the young kids who want to look like their friends. I think it's very hard for women who want to look like their friends. And if the overwhelming society is not religious, and so women are not covering their hair, it's hard for married women, even though they're married and they're religious, they don't want to look different. They think they don't look pretty. It's very hard for some of them to cover their hair. So some people make leniencies. They don't cover all their hair. They cover it. There's many different methods. Some people say that the main thing is you should be identified. Like we said, a kippah, you identify as a Jew. When you wear a hair covering for women, you identify as married. And so even if I have a hair band or something, that's enough. Because that identifies me as being married. But according to most poskim, you should really be covering all of the hair or most of the hair because hair is considered to be like a private part, private, intimate. And so, but yes, you'll find different ways that women are covering their hair. I said to my daughter the other day, we talked about it once, she wants to start wearing a wig, covering her hair. She's not showing her hair. And there are many, many rabbis who allow it. And I said, today, it's so hard for women to cover their hair. Any way you like to cover your hair. If you want to wear a wig, it's fine. If you want to wear a hat, it's fine. If you want to wear a kerchief, it's fine. All kinds of different methods. Some might be better than others, but as long as you're keeping the halakha is that married women have to cover their hair. That's the main thing.
So, but also women who not married to cover their hairs, except for the first one.
Very few women.
So then you don't get married then, because you.
Yeah, that's right. People will think they're already married. So yeah, you can stop it.